discussing things, getting sign off, sending notifications, sending emails, reports, views, looking at the documents, interacting with people. All of that, is basically communication in one way or the other. It covers the effectiveness with which a professional, the BA professional, interacts with other stakeholders in giving and receiving information. It's not just about one way. It's not even two-way. It's multi-way. So because you can interact with one person, two-person, or it could be a group. So it could be a intergroup. It could be an intra-person, interpersonal. It could be intra-group and intergroup, different groups and different teams. So it's like a really many to many kind of relationship in terms of the communication channels that the business analyst would really work with. And so it means that you need to engage in verbal communication, in talking, in writing, in sending, in creating reports and generating reports and sending the reports and emails and text messages and all these things to if required for the end users, the customers, internal stakeholders, sending reports to senior management. Non-verbal communication is about the way you carry yourself, your body language, the way you converse with people, the way you carry yourself when you try and engage in conversations with people. Are you projecting a positive personality in terms of the way you dress, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you actually express yourself? All of these is basically the non-verbal communication. Are you an active listener? Are you trying to listen when you ask a question? So essentially, again, most of the time we're trying to elicit the information. So we need to ask questions and we need to get the right information. So when we ask a question, it's not with an intent to understand the other person, the stakeholders' views and their perspectives. It's not about your follow it up with your way of answering that, or coming up with a loaded question. It's about, or a leading question. So you should be able to ask the questions in a way that is devoid of any loading, any kind of answers, any pressure, anything that is anchored to expectation. So we should go there with the idea that you're asking a question, you're listening actively to the person when they're answering, and then following up with you can follow it up if you want. You can probe. You can actually follow it up with multiple questions. Ask 10 other questions if you're not still happy or satisfied with the answer. But you should actively listen, and all of that again comes with with the right set of attitude and mindset. And written communication again is a very important thing, and that's all about all the reports that we talked about and the different ways of communication. So again, just to give a nutshell, it involves effective transmission of information to stakeholders through speech, which is a verbal communication, very important, formal and informal. Sometimes when you, again, that depends on the setting. You should be able to actually change your tone, and modulate your speech, and decide whether you want to be really formal in your communication and when it matters. And you cannot just carry the same tone, same tonality, and the modulation and the approach even when you're speaking to a colleague or somebody who is very close to you as a team member. Then perhaps you would like to tone down the formality and be a little bit casual. That's fine. You need to have that kind of sense of decision making in terms of when to use what kind of tone and formality. Again, that's all. The same applies to the non-verbal communication as well. You can't just have the same kind of a formal approach with your presentation, with the way you carry yourself across everyone. It depends on the context, on the set of people, what you're trying to do as. And then of course that as we discussed, it talks about the non-verbal communications, about the body language, the expressions, the eye contact, the posture. Are you being projected? Are you trying to send out positive signal and the confident, and the sense of a confidence, and the sense that you're actually carrying yourself well? Or is it that you're being perceived as weak, and are you trying to, or it could be the other way around. You could come across as being arrogant as well if you're not really doing they're sending the right signal. So it's always the sense of anything is negative. It can't be perceived as too weak and meek, and being obedient and being subservient. And at the same time, you can't be perceived as an arrogant, proud, and off the leash person who takes decisions autocratically. You should be having the right balance when you, and that depends on again the context and the stakeholders and the specific situation that we are talking about. And written communication is about the use of text, the models, symbols, pictures, videos. Nowadays videos and images have been used very widely. So if you want, by all means go ahead and shoot a video and share it, or even you can talk yourself from the video. You can actually express yourself on the video better if you think. Go ahead and do that. So that's all the different ways, using different media for different purposes, so that you are in a position to understand what is the best medium for communication, and then be able to use that in a way that is best for that channel, or to achieve the purpose that you have set out for. And that also depends on the audience, the type of audience, and the intent of that. Sometimes the audience changes. Again, as we discussed, it could be a formal setting, it could be informal setting. It's the team, it's the customers. If it's customers, you should be careful. You should be also, if it is something that you're dealing with external stakeholders like the suppliers, the regulators, and the customers and users, then you don't want to actually give a sense of a loose approach, that you don't have any control, or being too casual in your approach. Then what happens is, then you're actually letting your guard down, and by doing that you're actually compromising with your own organization, the brand that it stands for. So you should follow the organizational norms and the standards, the standard operating procedure, the SOPs that are defined. You need to follow all of those, the policies, procedures, the rules, when it comes to the communicating with the external stakeholders. So there is always that sense of measured approach when you look at what you're trying to do, and with whom you're going to interact, when and where, and all of those, right? So that is very important. And active listening, very important, because that's what is going to define how you're going to get the, not just the explicit information, but also the, more importantly, the things that are not said. So by actively listening, you're trying to understand what the other person is trying to say, their body language and their expressions, the overall context in which they are sitting, their desk space, their office space, for example, or their attire, the different tools that they're using, or that are on the table or on the desk. All of these observation, everything needs to be observed as you try and speak. So it's not just active listening, but active looking, active observation when you try and engage with stakeholders, and so that you can try and get these implicit information, implicit insights, which are really, again, give you rich contextual insights and information about what you're trying to understand from that context. So very, very important to have that trait.